Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the cerebral and the man with avid knowledge of organizational development, Dr. Thank Okusu. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, that looks like a long thesis. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, that looks like a long thesis. Thank you, John, and thank you, my colleagues, and then my DCOP. If you can see my picture, you see I have a red tie on. Happy Valentine to everyone. Today is Valentine Day. So we're actually bringing love to CSOs, and because love is the fundamental, the foundation of any growth within an organization. I do hope that at the end of this webinar, all the EDs that are in the room, we have a small section with their staff to celebrate love, genuine love. Okay, having said that, I want to say that this session will open us to understand the context of what we mean by attrition and attrition rates. And will also help us to understand some of the management strategies along that line. At the end, we are going to do a take-home assignment that must be submitted for those that really want to have some learning from this. And that is helping to develop organizational guide to manage attrition. Let me lay some fundamental facts in this discussion. Fundamental facts about this discussion is that staff movement will always happen. There is no way you stop staff from moving from one organization to another. There are several reasons why that happens. And when that happens, we don't call it an attrition rate, because such movement could be that they are moving for some purposes, but it will not be something of concern to that organization, because they will know very clearly that they have the system and processes in place to help internalize their thinking as far as attrition is concerned. Number two, I want to also establish that studies have indicated that there is higher staff turnover rate in non-profit sector compared to for-profit. And it's obvious, because when donor grant finish and you cannot pay the required remuneration of a staff, the possibility is that they will move. And so you can find mass movement when the end of project happens. When that happens, it is not that you have attrition rates, is that what brought them has concluded. But if we begin to have attrition within the projects where we have many staff moving because the environment is toxic or the environment is unfriendly, then we'll begin to think about the reasons. And so movement for staff is always higher in a non-profit compared to profits. Another fact I want to quickly establish is that NGO practitioners are always committed to environmental scanning. They always write applications. Even those that are within the higher level, they write applications. They are scanning, and anytime they get opportunity, most of them move. And when those are happening, it is not because you are not doing what you're supposed to do. It is because of the fact that that is some of the features we have discovered that happen within organization. I needed to establish this because as we move on in this, we will be looking at some of those things that are generic and contextual that we can say there may be some of them that affect staff movement. And so on that basis, I will be looking at attrition as a reduction in the number of employees through retirements, voluntary, involuntary. Somebody just decide to retire, or it is based on policy, resignation or death, and that is called attrition. Attrition can also be called turnover or wastage rate. For most profit, they call it turnover rates. But for TSOs, we refer to it as attrition rates. There are different types of attrition. There are good attrition. I call it good attrition in the fact that if people that are non-productive, that are just sitting to fill in the gaps and they just fill the office, and you cannot trace any role or responsibility to them, decide to just put in their paper and say, I'm going, you will be very happy. That is a good attrition. So we find that when they are less productive or when performance appraisal does not give room to say this is the work they are contributing to the overall goal, we refer to that as good attrition. But we call some bad attrition when high performing staff, people with significant contribution to your organization, are beginning to throw in the towel and say they don't think they will work here anymore. Not because of the fact that their role has concluded or the project has ceased, but they just feel, I can't stay here anymore. That is bad attrition. And we also have what we call market-driven attrition. This is very high, particularly in project levels, where you just have a USAID funded, DAI funded, Kemoni funded, and then they are looking for an OD expert. Things like that, you find that anyone that can pay higher, you see people write the application and moving to that place. And the news always fly around. So when you have a market-driven attrition, also that happens mostly by project-driven activities. Then we have what we refer to as the workload stress-driven attrition. When individual is given a job responsibility or job description, or he doesn't even have a job description at all, he was just employed to become a program officer. On what? It's not clear. Another individual becomes the IT provider. He becomes the MIE documentation staff. He is also the procurement officer. Anything that is happening, it is that boy or that girl that they are calling. The person suffered from burnout syndrome. At a point, he said, wow, what am I doing here? I can't continue like this. They will leave because the workload is much. That is another attrition level. Then we have what we call process-driven attrition. Process-driven attrition is when rules are not are not obeyed by organizations. And somebody is coming from a place where there is normality, there is application of processes and procedures. Somebody have to travel, somebody will have to apply, that kind of thing. But now he's coming to this place, anybody goes anywhere. The staff can travel, and when they come back, they don't give report. And he's wondering, is this the place I want to stay? And if he discovers that kind of place will not give him experience, they move. So these are the categories of attractions that over the time of my schedules and experience, I have discovered they happen among organizations. Now, why do employees leave? Well, what are the major one? One big one that I have put as a big elephant in the room is better pay. Most staff move, whether the environment is conducive or not, only 10% of staff will stay in the place if they find an organization that can pay better because that other person is doing well in terms of comfort. Many people move. So better pay is a major movement denominator for staff. Another one is over expectation from the workplace. Somebody is employed as a graphic artist or an IT provider, or somebody who is supposed to be social media this thing. And eventually they are giving him website design. And they say he has to be able to do that website design now. And suddenly he has moved from website design to become the one that is managing all of the social media handle. And then another one, they say you are going to be the one that will support documentation for the year. And all of them looks like a deliverable to that individual. That is one reason why people move. They are looking for a place where their roles, are specific enough for them to be able to. There's a mismatch of job roles and skills. People are not well recruited. Somebody who is recruited for program officer, who is supposed to be doing community work, is now asked to come to the office to be doing proposal writing. And that was not what he's trained for. He has never been doing that. He did say you would have to do it. It's one of our roles. And that's only become the major role of that person is doing. And when that happens, they leave. There is tendency for them to leave. Another one is lack of growth opportunities. You employ staff, and you employ them, for example, as one in charge of, how do I call it now? One in charge of empowerment for women groups. And then there are training that are coming up, and one of them has to do with skill training, facilitators for skill training for organizations. You look for somebody else who is maybe in HR, whom you like, you say you are the one that will go for the training. Another one come, and you think that this one was supposed to be, you move, you sidetrack, you say the ED will go. And you find all of those trainings that would have helped that program officer on empowerment to work, they are not allowed to go. There is no training plan or grant to say, okay, these are the training expectations. What do you want to do at the beginning of the year? And those are done, and then we are looking for opportunity, whether through social media or through internet, or even through in-person training that some donors bring up along the year. You are not allowing that. And when they discover that they are not growing, and most of even what they are supposed to be doing, and MIA staff cannot go because you don't like it, you say, I will go, I will be the one that will go. They will look for opportunity to live there. Lack of appreciation. It doesn't matter. Appreciation I'm talking about doesn't have to do with money. As a matter of money is the least motivating appreciation mode. Money is not the one. Simple word of comfort. You are doing well. I noticed that even when you got home last night, you were still working on this proposal. I appreciate you, my brother. This is great. I didn't expect you to be working on that, but thank you so much. You know, or sometimes you come to the office and you see everyone working. You say, okay, I'm going to buy everybody. Let's go and, get some meat pie for people. And they feel happy. You know, you find that kind of some that tangible, intangible appreciation having to resonate with the staff to now continue to believe that where they are working is their home. And the fortunate or fortunate thing that happens is that research have shown that for CSOs workers, people that are working in NGO, 70% of their time, of their active time, is spent in the office or doing the office work. And so if they are not appreciated, it will become like they are living a life of redundancy. The uncooperative team members, this is another one. Some people, I wish I can show you a video. It's a big problem. Some people who are not working at all as oppressors. They just begin to gossip from one point to another. On the staff that is supposed to be working, the ED doesn't see the work the person is doing because other people are pulling him down. And then the staff are not cooperating, and himself is not also, we withdraw now. Withdraw into a shelf. And it gets to a point, he just believe, I don't belong here. So the leader has to find a way to look at what is happening so as to bring out the best productivity from that staff. Another thing that we have seen is long work timing. People are talking about a work-life balance in organizations. Unfortunately, I'm not too sure whether those that preach it are actually doing it. You find managers who will tell you, go and rest, go and rest, go and rest. But they give you proposal, and you know that you will never be able to finish it for 3 days. They give you work, and they will tell you, I hope you are resting. No, that is not the best way to go. So if you get to a place where work-life balance works, people are giving schedule and responsibility that they know they can accommodate. And that allows them on their own to rest, and productivity is higher. But if it comes to burnout syndrome, it becomes a problem. Another cause of attrition is health and age problem. We have seen that a lot. That is not within anybody's fault anyway. Is when things like that happen, we must give human face to it. The ED, other people will be watching you, or the leaders, other people will be watching you as to how you manage those situations. If, for example, somebody's child is sick, and while you are talking on phone, you are abusing that person, and say, you mean your pikin is always sick. If you better take that sickness, or come and work here. Other people are listening. They will know that that environment might be toxic. Another one is inability to manage pressure. Not everybody have a pressure process, and that is where team building come in. Most time when I do team building, I want to make people understand, particularly the leader, that people that stay within an organization have different way of working, and they have different perceptive outlook to what they do. If you are not able to identify different kind of skill sets and personality trait that you have within an organization, you will discover that many of them will be pressured. But if you understand that, you will know how to allocate responsibilities, and that will make them feel comfortable and feel homely. I've seen that several times in where I work as an NGO worker within a local context, and an NGO worker within an international context, and as well, even as a facilitator and a consultant. And so I am not talking from book work, I'm talking about things that happens. Another factor that we have seen that is a cause of attrition is for women's motherhood. We have a very good staff who just got married, a chartered accountant, who is supposed to be managing several projects, and the only one that has skill set for QuickBook, for example, in the office. And then she's pregnant and she has to go for 6 months. The ED is threatened, or the leader is threatened, because there's no other person who has that same skill set. And he may not have the money to be able to employ somebody that will do that within that 6 months. You find that all kinds of things begin to happen in a quick succession. But if you already understand that what you call maternity leave, and the policy have shown that it has to be for 6 months, 3 months completely out, 3 months for half day. If you know that already and it's in your policy, as soon as that woman is pregnant, you are bringing an assistant to understudy that individual, such that when that woman is leaving for safe mother, which is a normal policy process, you will not be under any. But if you drive it too rough, that mother will feel that she's being victimized, and that place might become toxic for that particular woman, and that could lead to attrition. Then managers are also causes of attrition. This is huge. I don't know how to explain this so much, but I want to tell you that the people factor is so key to whether an organization will survive or not. Managers are those that should have leadership skill to create an enabling, favorable environment. A manager who believes he will use all times elements of force or elements of harassment, intimidation, domination to make staff to do things will create toxicity within an organization. And because it's the center figure, people will begin to form camps, and you begin to see people working in divide and rule environments, which affects attrition, which will increase attrition. The higher studies, self-employment, then there are also causes. Now, I move on a little bit more now, that large proportion of employees leave within 2 years. I have seen that within the period. How do you identify a toxic environment, organization that have managers that have challenges? If you find that within 2 years, they continue to have attrition rate that is higher than 15%. When I say 15%, attrition rate globally best practice should not be more than 15% in a year. If it is more than 15% in a year, within the first 2 years consecutively, you zoom into management style, you zoom into policy-driven issues, you zoom into staff recruitment process. And so what we find is that large proportion leave. If you have people that are leaving at the age of, by the time it's 5 years, it could be for career switch. People feel comfortable if they have an environment to stay at least for 2 years. Because if I see a CV where somebody is moving every year, I'll begin to feel concerned about that organization. Of course, that's a great one that I have discovered that happens. What are the effects of attrition? Low productivity. Most organizations train staff to build their skill. They have capacity. I've seen that in some of the organizations I've gone to assess. When you assess them at one of the periods, they had almost a 4 or 5 in the assessment, and they think that looked like a mature organization. Somebody else come 2 months later to assess, and they are giving the organization a 2 or a 1, which means low skill. What happened? The individual you have trained, whom the organization met that time at the point of assessment, have left because of some other reasons. So people now classify you as not being productive, because you need the skill of people to be able to be productive. Loss of knowledge, loss of expertise, wherever you have an attrition, loss of pick-up business relationship, because people only network and collaborate with people that they think have the same skill or the leverage skill that they can have for competitive advantage. Negative impact on other team members. When people begin to leave and it's high, you find a graveyard environment where everybody is quiet and on their own. They don't know who is next, and particularly if it's area that has to do with toxic environments. Then it becomes a benefit to the competitors. They can easily be swayed. Somebody can easily tell them, you are not we are working there, we can pay you now, just come. With a little pay above, they will go. Of course, another aspect is excess of what people that are remaining will be made to be doing more work than others. This slide I have here, please, I want you to take a picture of it, because you need to know how to calculate your attrition rate. Calculate it by yourself. When you calculate it by yourself, you will begin to know whether you are one of those that we can say have a higher attrition within 2 years, whether you have a 15% attrition rate or you have 25%. I've even seen some that have 65% attrition rate, not because of project end, but because of hiring and firing. And you begin to wonder what the issues are. What does this slide means? If you have 150 employees in an organization, and in 1 year, 20 of them resign, but within that same year, you have employed 25 to be able to complement the people that resign. If you find the total number of employees that you now have is about 155, that is the current this thing, which means that when you do 20 over 100 divided by 150, which plus 25 that just be employed, it's on the board, it's on the slide here. You will find a 0.1145. That figure you got, you are going to times it by the total number of staff that would have been for that year, which is 175. You will find your rate. In the case of this one, it is 20%. This is already a high attrition rate for that organization. When you calculate attrition rates, you begin to find out whether we have what we call freshers. Freshers is the percent of people living within 2 years within the organization, or 1 year, 1 or 2 years. Those freshers, if your attrition rate is 15 and above, there is a problem with that organization. And another one is called the critical resource attrition. If most of them are your high performing staff, you must begin to zoom into why they are leaving, particularly if they are not leaving because of end of projects. But if they are, most of the attrition is for low performance attrition of staff, you may not have to bother about that. Now, what is the cost of attrition? What does it cost an organization? Do you know that it costs a lot for recruitment? The time you waste, the develop recruitment call for recruitment, the time for interview, developing an orientation program, job roles and responsibility. You do that for a staff, and you eventually recruit a staff. You assemble the people to help you interview. And then in 6 months, in 1 year, the staff is over. You want to do it again. It's a lot of cost, not only to you, but to the reputation of the organization. Recruiting time and manpower, I've said that, training and retention costs, low productivity costs, and then the new hire costs. Because new hire come in with expectation, and you have to be able to provide them the required tool, which of course you have to buy. Now, this is about how do you manage attrition? I divided this into what all the managers should do, what the organization should do, and then what the donors should do. Number one is employee engagement and satisfaction. The highest rate of attrition results from lack of proper recruitment. Once staff who you are recruiting are cronies who do not know the skill, you are likely to shout more, you are likely to be training more, and you are likely to have challenge. I'm not talking about mentorship. Mentorship comes when you have skilled staff that can do that. But for employee engagement and satisfaction, you must regularly conduct employee satisfaction survey and post-check. Post-check means how are they feeling? What is their pain points? What are their areas that require improvement? Most organizations have always advised you, put an anonymous suggestion box somewhere and ask staff to write through typing. Don't let them write with a letter. If they write with their handwriting, some organizations, some leaders, some ED or some managers know their handwriting. Instead, let them type it and put it in the suggestion box. You might be able to get information from there. Get somebody who is anonymous, a consultant, to do a regular survey. It doesn't cost much. Anonymous survey and give you some information as to how satisfied your staff are. Then number two, promote open communication and feedback. Encourage employees to voice their opinion. Promote open communication and feedback. Make sure every feedback you get the employee to speak, allow their voice to be heard, listen to their opinion or suggestion. They may not make meaning, but let them feel they have something to offer. They feel that they begin to now claim ownership of that organization. Invest in employee development and growth. Offer anyone that have a training to go, and it is within their skill set, and it was what they plan to do at the beginning of your retreat at the beginning of the year. Allow them to go. Make them to be able to be part of it. When you offer that kind of training, mentorship, and career development, they begin to see you as an exemplary leader. They begin to refer to you. Even where they need to leave and they have a higher pay, they will come and give you the offer letter and tell you they have given us an employment, but we don't want to leave. Is there a way you can help on this? I've seen that happen several times, but I've seen some that don't have to at all. They will just quietly leave when you don't invest in their growth. Then under the work-life balance and flexibility, I have seen it again and again. People don't care about people's heads. They don't care. Provided you do that work for them, it doesn't matter to them what happens to you. Have you seen footballers, when they fall on the field, the referee will blow and stop the match, no matter how urgent it is. They will go and attend to that footballer. They will make sure that footballer is taken care of and taken out of the field, and then treatment is done before they continue. That is called wellness program. Many organizations, even when they have grant, they don't prioritize life insurance. They don't prioritize reference. They don't prioritize health maintenance organization to come and enroll their staff. They don't think it's important. Some, even when their staff are sick, they say you must come to work. You must go and get a letter from the doctor. Even when you know that this person is not feeling well, manage a wellness program. When you mean people to rest, allow them to rest. So support employee physical and mental health. Many people are more into mental health problem now than even physical. Respect boundaries and avoid overwork. Somebody come to work. You are saying, is it because somebody have told you about how they have a challenge with maybe the husband or the wife, and that is what you don't bring? I know that is what. If you know that issue, because is it because your wife is giving you problem, you have to bring it to this place, and that was something that was said in confidence. You know, when you don't respect boundaries, or you ask people, what did you do last night? How did you do this? What did you do this? They begin to wonder whether most people, they do not take it. Those are safeguarding issues. And as much as possible, let your safeguarding and code of conduct, let them work. Encourage employees to disconnect after work hour and avoid expectant constant availability. You have let them go and then you are calling them in the night. Have you done that? How far have you done it? You are not maintaining work-life balance. Then the big elephant in the room. I know this is a big one. Somebody sent me a text message before we started this program that the major player of attrition are the donors. Said the donors will pay huge amount and they will not pay for salary. The salary section will be low. All other insurance companies will be low, and they will focus on activity, and then they will bring high skilled people. And when the project is ended by 4 years after, everybody leaves because they cannot maintain the salary structure. So the salary structure is uncompetitive. I agree with you. Honestly, I agree with you. And that is why I, as an additional capacity strengthening organization, have done 2 consecutive organizational development summit to bring donors to the platform, to make them understand that investing on institutional strengthening funding for organization is key. Let people begin to have a lot of resources that will enable them beyond the project to still be able to fund the kind of skill strength that they will have. And that is why all of that things I'm talking about are things that are internal, are germane. But for the donor aspect, we continue to drive the process. We at this end, as God give us ability, will continue to find every medium to bring the donors and the CSOs to the table to continue to converse. Many organizations are already benefiting from that by reason of the scale project. Then have a salary structure. But other people, the one that's even more worry for some is that a salary structure that is given, which donor have paid for. Which donor have recommended, approved. They give it to you. You say you say you are going to pay a staff 500,000. And when the proposal is won and delivered to you, the next thing we see is that same staff that's supposed to be paid 500,000, whose skill is actually higher than that, you are paying the staff 150,000. You say if you don't want to take it, go. So that is not the issue of committee salary now. It's about individual who is not following policies. Then exit interview analysis. Please conduct exit interview. It's very important. Exit interview is conducted when you have paid off the individual. Not that somebody is leaving, you still have this 1 month salary remaining, and you have not paid that person. You say you are giving him exit interview form. He will not feel. He will not tell you the truth, because he knows that if he tell you the truth, you will not pay the other one, or you might delay it. So pay the entitlement complete. Let him go. A week or 2 weeks later, send exit interview to the person. And you tell the person, I want your honest feedback. And the person will deliver that. And you will utilize that to implement an action plan that will enable you to prevent whatever the individual has said. Then you track progress and measure effectiveness of that plan. What are the roles of donor? As I close, I'll soon be concluding this discussion. What are the roles of donors in reducing risk from attrition? Number one, donors must pay for staff that work in an organization. Donors must support institutional strengthening of organizations. They must deliberately buy into the localization agenda, where organizations are expected to have enabling system and processes. Donors also should pay for human resource salary. I discovered that HRO is never paid. Administrators are not paid. They pay for finance, they pay for MIE, they pay for program, and they leave a HRO. The core recruitment process that enable good staff to come in and manage them is actually the human resource. And so organizations are now forced to go and engage a low-skilled individual for the purpose of driving high-skilled person that will come to the organization. And they cannot even face them to discipline them or to analyze an appraisal form that has been delivered, if they ever have at all. And then donors should also know the attrition rate and ask why they have high attrition. They must also have leadership perception on what is their understanding about retaining staff, and how do they see attrition as a problem. Like I've talked about pay, competitive salary. They should document staff working on project and ensure a minimum of 2 years is provided, except in Sunday attrition. What I mean by this is that when they get staff that are going to work with them on that project, let those staff sign a commitment to staying for a minimum of 2 years, because someone trained that is going to be going into them. They must be able to buy into that, but the leader must also be able to commit to providing an environment that will enable them to do that. And of course, train staff on risk aspect, on how to mitigate risk. It takes less time to do things right than to explain why you did it wrong. That is what we call organizational culture. When organizational culture is right in an environment, you will find staff, no matter what, despite, they would like to stay. I have stayed in a local organization before for years, and I love saying that I could not even write application. I forgot to write application because of the environment that I was suitable for me. The manager was great. And so it was much better. And so if you do things right, you will not be explaining all kinds of reasons why staff are leaving. And then finally, before I open this for question, I have an assignment for you, everybody. If you are an ED watch, if you are ED, you are on this webinar, and there's 1 or 2 of your staff that are there, I want you people to meet after this. Take a picture of this one now. As an organization, what would you be accepting as an acceptable attrition rate? I told you 15% is the best practice. If it's more than 15%, then there's a problem. But agree on by yourself what it is, and then identify what are the key elements, that you want to ask staff when they are leaving organization. What are the exit form, interview form, key elements, or what are the points that you want them? Let the staff list them. You also list them. You also list them. Recommend 3 strategies to prevent attrition in your own setting, based on what you have heard this morning, and based on what I have spoken to. What are these strategies you think resonate with you? You think you would recommend? Let the staff also say it, and list them out. Use that to develop an exit interview guide and send it to if you can do all of this, I will help you to develop an exit interview guide and forward back to you as part of this. Only passionate and committed people will do this. But you have my email. I'm sure many of you have my email that send this information to you. Do that and send it to me. And then it's an assignment I want everybody to do. You have 1 week to do it, and it has to get to my table by, oh no, not 1 week, by Friday. By Friday. When it gets to my table by Friday, I will do a due diligence to ensure that the other week I submit it back to you with a full policy and the form on exit interview. Thank you again and again. And questions now. Over and out.
Thank you, Dr. TG. Thank you for doing justice to the topic. My question pertains to the calculation of attrition rate. Considering the multifaceted nature of attrition drivers, how do we effectively incorporate these extraneous factors into attrition rate calculation? Are there specific adjustment or methodology that can help to better capture the impact of the external influences on attrition metrics? That is because as you were talking about the calculation, I'm just thinking those factors that are not within the reach of the organization. For instance, those factors, the basic that you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, that some staff necessarily they must leave, maybe because of better pay and all that. So I want to know, how do we factor in these extraneous factors while calculating attrition metrics? Okay, I will hand over to Abigail to coordinate the question and answer session. Abigail, over to you.
All right, thank you, John. And thank you for yielding or opening the floor for questions. Just to say, if you have any question for the facilitator, please use the raise hand icon. You're also free to drop your question on the chat. Ahmed, please unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doctor, for this elaborate presentation. I would really appreciate that. Just is to say, mine is not a question, actually is a request that if this slide should also be shared with the organization so that it could be like a document that we can always revert back to add more knowledge on what we studied today or what we learned today. So thank you very much. That's my take.
All right, thank you for that. Madonna, you can go ahead, please. Unmute yourself and speak.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kosun. Thank you, other participants. First, let me start with a plea that the assignment you gave, if there is a way we can have it on the chat box so that we can get it correctly and work on it and submit. Then I need to ask, staff attrition, it could also, when it comes, some policies says you give 1 week, 1 month notice in lieu, or even if is the organization that is asking you to go. But we also discovered that most times, perhaps in most NGOs or development work, those things does not happen. So how does a staff who feels he is wrongly dismissed or relieved of his appointment get redress, or how does an organization who feels that a staff just walked out on them get redress? That's my question.
I'm happy for that question. I expect that question. This is the calculation. Now the next slide shows how to interpret it. If you finish your calculation, you first of all ask your staff, all of these people that have left, were they employed within this year, within 1 year or 2 years? That is the first question. Now, if they are employed within the first year or 2 years, was it that the projects have ended? If the answer is no, and they left within that 1 year or 2 years, you attribute that to some other factors which are intraneous. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Now, the second one, infant attrition, percentage of people leaving the organization within 1 year, percent of freshers who are just coming in, that is people who are employed with the first year are also leaving. And then people who are not that they have stayed for 1 or 2 years, but they are leaving. How many of them are within the first 2 years? That's a higher one. It's a indication for toxicity of an environment. Then the other one, critical resource attrition. Now, are they very highly skilled persons? Are they very highly? And among the highly skilled persons we are having right now, is it as a result of end of projects? Is it a result of things that is not within your control? Are they massively leaving? And yet the project is still on, that's a problem. But if they are leaving because the project has concluded, of course, the attrition rates can be explained that this is not an attrition rate. That do just look like the normal movement of staff. So there are reasons. Once you use this table for this, then low performer are almost all of them. Are they because they don't have work to do and they have to leave? And of course, the organization must have said, based on policy, they don't have any role anymore. If that is the reason, of course, they don't fall under that. So this slide is helping to interpret the attrition rate. So even if there are extraneous variables, your analysis of the people that leave and your analysis of whether it is project-based or it's a extraneous factor will help you to streamline it to the number that actually leave because the environment was not suitable. And that is the way to go in calculation. Have that answered your question?
Very well, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now for Ahmed, thank you so much. I love that, and definitely we will share this slide. As soon as this is done, we will share this slide to all of you. And because I want you to do that assignment, that takes me to that other of McDonald's question, whether we will, but we'll share it so that you can do your assignment, and that's good. I will share it. I will want you to do that assignment. And now the aspect of leaving the organization and the notice of a notice given to the leadership is a policy issue. If the policy said, and it is documented in the employment letter of that staff, and of course, it's also in the human resource policy of that organization, that any staff who has passed the stage of probation and is now given a full appointment letter can only exit with 3 weeks notice in lieu of exit or whatever. If that is there, and that individual did not obey it, and he just left like that, it means that he doesn't understand what it means to be in an engagement. That person can never come back to that environment that requests for performance appraisal for any of the organization that he's going to. And he can even not document your organization as a place that he worked or she worked, because most most employees go behind you nowadays to go and add your organization directly. Did this person work in this place? What was this? What would you say about his attitude to work? So if there is anybody listening to me now who is thinking of moving and is not going to follow the rules of the organization, then anywhere you are going to, they will also take you serious. Because the last question that they normally ask at the point of interview is, where are you working right now? You will say where you are working. You say, how are you coming? Can you come immediately? If you say yes, you can come immediately. It means that you do not, they will immediately know that this is not the right person they want to take. They will not take you. But if you say, I will need 3 weeks to disengage, because that is the policy of this organization, that is an excitement. They will not know that is an individual that obey rules and understand what policies are about. And so McDonald is a policy issue. It's something that if there's any organization that flout it or individual that flout it, you can actually write to that organization that is going to, that he did not fulfill his policy recommendation. And nobody will query you for that. Because there's a process that requires exit for any staff. I hope I answered your question. Thank you. Over to you, Abigail.
All right. Thank you so much. Next batch, I have Moyin. Moyin, you can unmute and ask your question. I'm giving you access to your mic.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, everyone. So my question is, first, I want to confirm if this calculation for attrition is, if this is on yearly basis. I just want to confirm that. So are we talking about number of staff employed in that year, or we are accumulating everything together? Just to confirm that. Then also, in cases where you have all these ways of managing attrition, taking care of wellness program, respect boundaries, exit interview analysis, and all of that, but yet you are still experiencing attrition, either good attrition or market-driven attrition. How do you manage that? Then also in the calculation of attrition rates, do you include good attrition as well, or it's just it's just the ones that you can refer to as bad attrition and market-driven attrition. Then finally, can you also recommend what maybe best practice staff retention policy apart from ways of managing attrition?
Say that again. I didn't hear that last one, please. Sorry.
Okay,
What did
I
you
said,
say?
can you
The last one,
recommend?
please.
I said, can you recommend best practice for staff retention if there are staff retention policies that organizations can adopt?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next is Society for Community Development. Could you go ahead and ask your question?
Okay, firstly, I want to really appreciate Dr. Tangood for a very wonderful presentation. My name is Atsegbua. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Society for Community Development. I really learned a lot listening to him, but I just want to add something that is very key. Why staff leave organization? When you have a team and you have program officers, you have program managers, managing a project, implementing a project, and sometimes the ED or the Chief Executive Officer spend more time having meetings with the managers, not with the program officers. I just learned something listening to you this morning. When the program managers discover that they have very brilliant and intelligent program officers who have the capacity and the expertise to do their work, they'll become scared and they don't want the ED or the CEO to notice those program officers. So what they will do, the program managers will begin to bring negative reports, negative comments to the ED, to the CEO, just to make sure that the CEO does not see their capacity or their expertise. So I'm talking from experience. So in essence, what I have learned is that the ED or the CEO should not just listen to what the project directors or project managers, are reporting, but the EDs, just like you said, spend time listening to the program assistants, the program officers, that feedback, that relationship, it will help. Then another thing again, quickly, a situation once you have an organization and there is a bad egg who comes in and begin to form cliques, some staff will not be comfortable. The environment will now become very toxic, and some staff who are very good will want to leave. And it's really terrible when the best of hands, are leaving the organization. Then a message to the donors, to the funders. When you have a project, in Nigeria, you have a project and you ask an organization to recruit staff. When they recruit for a project of maybe tens or hundreds of millions, you are telling the organization to pay the staff 40,000 naira, 50,000 naira a month. And these staff are staff with masters, and PhD holders. And you are saying that they should earn, 50,000, 100,000, when they know that their peers in other places in international organizations are earning millions and hundreds of thousands. I want the funders to take this very seriously. It is time that we begin to value, our people. You cannot bring a project of millions of naira and ask the organization to pay 50,000, 60,000, 80,000. Any staff who agrees to take 80,000 is just taking it just to while away time for 3 months or 4 months and leave. Thank you.
All right, he's done. Oh, next is Evelyn. Evelyn, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. TG, for facilitating this very important conversation. So just want to add to the discussion around safeguarding. Another factor that could be facilitating attrition is sexual harassment within the workplace. And this is a topic or an issue that is often not discussed. Sometimes you see within the organization, there's a quid pro quo culture within the workplace. This for that, you are exchanging sexual favors or advances to access trainings, to get promoted, or to even be placed on a project or even promoted. But sometimes it's even facilitated by the management, sometimes even lower cadre staff, such as volunteers, intern, could be harassed and they're not really able to say anything as a result of the power dynamics. I think this is an issue we really need to stress. And because we have a conservative culture, most people would likely not talk about it. So it's important to take safeguarding very serious because it could lead to attrition.
Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you so much.
So Dr. Wall, if you can unmute and ask, please.
Okay, hello, good afternoon all. Good afternoon, sir, for the presentation. It was really enlightening. Sir, my question is, you mentioned you worked with a local organization for some time and you enjoyed working there. I just want to, based on your experience, for you to comment on how emerging organizations like local organizations like ours, the Productive Youth Development Initiative in Sokoto, how we can apply these attrition explanations that you have given. I believe based on your experience, something, because most of our staff are not many, we are just about 4 or 5. But one thing we try to do is to ensure that we build capacity of those people that are working with us. They came initially as volunteers. Then when we had projects, we put them as finance and program manager and the rest. So a small organization like ours, how I just wanted to comment on the issue of attrition. Then the other question is your email, sir. Your email so that we can submit the assignment. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Cotton, I think you can go ahead. Maybe glad to join the next year.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I think I'm getting this very clearly now. I'm happy that there's so much that is happening even within the scope of this training. And I'm looking forward to getting some very good results. Moi, the attrition rate that we calculate have two areas. The first is it's calculated every year, and then it's calculated every 5 years, and then it's calculated every 10 years. That is organization that allow that process. Now, the one you calculate every year is supposed to be the acute attrition dynamics. When you are calculating the one for every year, you are also including those that you have engaged in the following year. That's the second year, 2 years. Because I didn't show that slide here. The slide I would have shown is a distribution table that shows that the highest level of attrition that happen in any organization is within the first 2 years. Because that is when you really need that management process to know what happened within the organization. Once it is past 2 years, most other people are beginning to acclimatize or are beginning to understand the context, and they are going to just either resign to their faith just to remain where they are. So the first year, second year, and when you are calculating, make sure staff that join within that 2 years are the ones that are captured. But if you're not going to do the 10 years for the total, 5 years to the total staff. But in whichever way you want to look at it, 15% is what it is. But if it's a project-driven program, for example, USAID that have 5 years 5-year rate, Palladium will not be using us for attrition rate because after 5 years we will leave. Compulsorily, it's not even any policy issue. It's a fact that we have to leave. And so that's that. Then you also mentioned, how do we separate this from in terms of, okay, you talk about good attrition. That's why I showed the category of staff. By way of performance appraisal that you have done over the period, you will not staff that are poor performing. You will not staff that are good ones, skilled. You will not also staff that are just in the border. If among those staff that are poor performing that have been given performance appraisal to do are the one that we are seeing that are leaving, Yeah, you know that whichever way they are finding that means they are not. That is not when you have given them too much work overload, though. But they are within their skill that somebody says an IT expert. He cannot even do anything that has to do with Facebook, boosting the Facebook. You don't know how to open. You don't know how to do administrator's work. You cannot update or whatever. When you are finding people like that, you know that they are poor staff. But not when a skill staff can develop, a program staff that can articulate, facilitate, develop plans, a framework is the one that is going. Of course, that is a good staff. So once you do that attrition rate, you now begin to ask yourself, how many of these people can we say truly they were skill staff? You know, that for a retention policy, there is something called retention policy. What we have is an exit interview form. It's an exit interview guide that gives you opportunity for a feedback. But in the human resource policy, we've tried to craft issues around staff retention, staff workplace balance, issues around motivation, leave. Once you can comply with most of what HRO policy is saying, you have been already speaking to some of those issues that I spoke to that affect movement of staff. So if you can do this assignment, I would have been able to come out with a very robust, based on your context, exit interview form or guide that will help you as you move on as an organization. I hope that helps that discussion. Then, Atiboa, thank you so much. You spoke to about the managers and the staff and how they sometimes will try to cover the skill set of the one that they are supervising, because they feel that if they open it too much, it will be a problem for them. I wouldn't always advise ED to go beyond the manager and be doing micromanagers for the staff that are underneath the manager. At a point, you will make that manager to have a position without authority. Once you have a manager who have a position without authority, they begin to have complex issues. They are not able to defend their position anymore. What I normally say is that when you use the performance appraiser form, that is what we call the 360-degree assessment. The performance appraiser form, when it is issued, there are different categories of reviews. There are goal sets and achievements that are supposed to be done. There are some tied to the program officer, program assistant. And from there, you will begin to see beyond what you see in the process, some of the skills that you will be able to redesign the role and responsibility of that program assistant or program staff to elicit the skill that they are more efficient or more comfortable with. One of these ways, it's not like, because if you play down the manager, you begin to bring down your organogram and begin to affect even the comfort and the viability of that staff. But when you begin to use performance appraisal, which is a process, that drive complete measurement and skill set process, and allow it to work, you will be able to elicit a lot of other virtues from the program staff and render the recommendation of the manager that would have reduced that capacity a little bit low. And so that's what I would recommend to that. And again, a team, I agree with you perfectly when you said there are some kind of team that will come a click and they make the environment toxic. Please, when you find them and you discover, I have a video I normally show in this kind of thing, but I can't show it here now because of time constraints. But if you see those kind of stuff, do a pruning like agriculture normally do. Agriculturists, they will look at those branches that will cause problem for the tree. They will cut them off. They will fertilize when they need to fertilize. They will look at some of those that are coming down. So when you do a pruning, you begin to see efficiency. It's not all your staff that are there that are actually high performance. And that is where the performance appraiser become very useful. Evelyn, thank you so much. That's an aspect. I just cover it by saying code of conduct and harassment. It's not just sexual harassment. Intimidation. They muscle them to want them to come and beg them. They might not speak it out openly, but they will do it to a point when you now begin to beg them. And then when you begin to beg them, then you have opportunity for that. Safeguarding is a serious issue to every project, particularly donor projects. And so I want to encourage everyone to go beyond GESI, gender and social inclusion, gender equity and social inclusion policy, to having a safeguarding. That was what we did last month. We talked about leveraging diversity and inclusion in organizational growth and performance. And Evelyn that spoke right now was part of that discussion. So thank you, Evelyn, for that. And then finally, I want to agree with you. I work with a local organization, and that is where I got my skills. I am happy, even the ED of that, this is right here on this platform. I saw him recently. I just saw his name now. Now, when you create opportunity for growth, there will be growth. It doesn't matter how you start now. All you need to do is allow the policy to begin to work, even now. As small as you think you are, once you create a credibility around the staff and make them to develop ownership structure that we are all part of this. It's not that you are working for you. And then whenever anything happening, when you go for meetings, come back. Even if it doesn't concern them, bring them together and talk to them. We just went for this meeting. No, this is what they discuss. What do you think? If decisions are going to be made, ask them. Even when they don't concern them, what do you think about this? They feel so happy. See, your guy went for a meeting and came to tell us, okay, see what would you have written? Even when they know what to write. You know, when you begin to do those micro level of giving them involved and getting them involved, they feel so happy that they are part of it. And that is the beginning of creating an environment that is comfortable and that is useful.
Gladys, can you speak now?
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you, Doc, for the presentation. It's really good listening to you. Okay, in this attrition issue we are talking about, what if people are leaving the organization due to lack of projects or contracts? People must be paid. They can't continue to stay in an organization when there is no work or no payment for them. Though the management may be so good, doing so well, and yes, people are leaving because there is nothing to do there. What do you advise? What are the possible things the director or the executive director, can do to keep these key staff who are also who are so good, whom they will also use to gain more projects in future? That's my question.
Thank you, Gladys.
Reward, Yusufu, can you go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Tangod, for this wonderful presentation. I'm here with my team and we are learning a lot from what you have said.
Wow,
so just,
thank you.
A question, I'm from Ruwed, so Sokoto. So
Wow.
I'm trying to put this question together in the sense that in the area of burnout, you spoke on burnout also, where due to workload demand from donor partners. We've had a project where the donor partners requested only 3 staff to be in the project with so much deliverables. So the ED, the finance, and 1 program officer. And we have so much deliverables in that kind of project. So how do you go about burnout where the organization does not have capacity to employ more hands to manage to cover up this, because this can also lead to the staffs deciding, oh, this work is too much for me, I can't continue, and then let me look for a better environment to carry out. And you are aware that local NGOs, partners, local NGOs like this are donor to run, operate. And if there are no grants, and then the organization, the staffs and others might remain redundant. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Reward.
Saifulahi, please, can you go ahead?
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and good afternoon, the presenter.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. Indeed, we have learned a lot. My name is Saifullah Mukhtar Sadiq. I'm the Program Officer, Kanawa Educational Foundation for the Disabled. I'm from Kano. Sir, I have one question. Sir, what would you recommend for local organizations that used to have a kind of conflict of interest over some certain things among the staff? Especially sometimes that you see that the conflict is between the executive director himself and some other big staff in the organization. over some certain things like training and all of that, attending workshop and all of that. So what would you recommend for that kind of organization? Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel, you're next. Can you unmute and ask a question?
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for this insightful presentation. So my question is this, at the cost of explanation, you made mention of if a staff secure a new job and then is willing to resume immediately, it's not kind of palatable because where he or she is going might be thinking, oh, this person does not respect policy or all of that. But my question is this: there are some organizations that has this kind of policy. Like, okay, if it's either you give a month or 3 months in lieu of notice, or you pay equivalent, and amount. So what if a staff decides to like, okay, I cannot wait till that month or that period of time, but I can pay the amount in lieu so that I can move. So I don't know, is that kind of thing okay, or is still not okay? That is it better that the staff just wait and observe that period of maybe 1 or 3 months in lieu before leaving the organization?
Thank you, Rachel. You can mute yourself now. And the last person for this batch is Timothy. Timothy, could you unmute your mic and ask your question?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Tangod. Of course, I'm very pleased to be in this webinar session with you. I mean, very interesting. I've taken a whole lot from all of the teachings today, but I know I came in late, so I'm sure I didn't have some other vital part of the session. But then, quickly, I just want to ask this question because I'm not sure if you didn't cover this topic already on COI. So far, the man who spoke last before, this person was talking about COI, conflict of interest, managing conflict of interest. I know experience as well. Conflict of interest is a very big issue in many upcoming organizations, and even some organizations that are already big up there. There is a lot about conflict of interest, sometimes even beyond just competing for attending workshops and or other events with staffs. It goes as far as bringing cronies, well, I say friends, acquaintances, people you just feel in your community, family members, with no expertise to probably some very skilled staff in the organizations, or that will be required to perform some functions within an organization. You just see an organization being flooded with a lot of incompetent, inexperienced people, and then coming to that space to compete, to work with you. So you have a bunch of people working and not really working. You have a few people working, but then a whole large number of staff who are just there sitting down and just constituting a nuisance within the organization. So I think that contributes a lot to some level of attrition that organizations experience. I have seen this in many cases. And then what Sofalai said also on, sometimes you see the big EDs competing for you to attend as little as some very menial trainings, and ED is competing with you a staff member to attend such kind of event. So please, I would like your expertise on this matter. But then I'm not attempting to answer Gladys' question, but Gladys spoke of
But please go
retainment
ahead.
beyond the line.
If you no, just go. If you have, just go ahead. This is a conversational webinar. There's still no one person know it all. Go ahead, bro. Just go ahead.
Thank you so much. Just share. I'm currently working with a very young lady, but very dynamic. I call her small but mighty. A very young lady. I would say she's my leader. Now, what we do, what she does in her organization, I don't know if it will answer Gladys, but this is it. Beyond the life of project, when we do not have any existing project going, she has this. She has a very large network of beyond the shores of Nigeria, Africa, and to the rest of the world. So she gets a lot of invitation to attend conferences, some in Ireland, across the world, in America, and other places. So what she does when we do not have ongoing projects, just to encourage staffs, is to say, okay, I have a conference to attend. I'm supposed to attend a conference, say in Portugal. All right, XYZ staff. Okay, say Timothy, you will be going for that conference. I just want you to go there. So, and I've seen how do this for a couple of staff within the organization. So we have this opportunity traveling beyond the shores of Nigeria to Africa, to other parts of the world, just to attend conferences and then come back. Some week, yeah, when we do come back, we do what we call a step down training or whatever it is that these conferences are about. So in a way, that is not to say that staff are not still allowed or permitted to leave, but I see that as a great way that she encourages her staffs to remain, because she doesn't hoard. She doesn't hoard all of this opportunity as they come her way. She feels, okay, there is no project. These people have been very, committed coming to the office and, doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. So the only way I can reward them is to also give them these opportunities to represent me in some of these conferences across the world. So I just want to say that I think in response to Gladys' questions about staff retention, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ayedu. That's Timothy. That's fine. That was great. Okay, back to you, Abigail.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr.
Gladys, I'm sure that is answered. But one thing I want to mention when the project ends, I think I spoke to it kind of lucidly before. One of the things you must recognize that you won that grant because you had a place where the donors could fund before. Don't lose track of the fact that because you are now managing a grant that is $1,750,000 or even $500,000, you did not have a beginning before. Your policy must continue to recognize organizational rather than project-driven sustainability. That is where organizational development comes in. Once you recognize that you have your key staff, when projects are running, make sure you deliberately get those key staff to be part of the project you are running. And also make them, if they don't have the skill, make them to become part of the tree where others that are skilled are working, so that they learn from me. Develop a training plan so that every Friday, the last week of that Friday, the last hour of the Friday is used for mentorship. Let those high-level performing staff that came because of the project step down those training to your staff that have been there before. Get more volunteer, get more assistants, let them learn from them. When they are eventually going to go because they must go, you cannot pay them. You would have had some staff you have trusted before that were part of that project, having some of those skill sets, and deliberately develop a SharePoint or a cloud base where all the documents that was used for that project are saved. And that's plus what Timothy spoke to about the ED deliberately encouraging an environment of comfort. Get everybody to involve to a point that they believe this is our own organization, not this is his own or their own. So once you get some staff that work like that, you will begin to always see additional memory that helps you to stabilize. I hope that I have answered that question. Reward, yes, I am happy you mentioned this. Burnout syndrome is a big challenge, and particularly with donors who does not pay for insurance strengthening. And I see some donors with me here. I see some of them, and thank God I work with a donor organization at the moment. And I also want to say, because I've been part of insurance strengthening over time, and at least they respect my word from time to time. Let it be known that if you are supporting organization and you do not fund the additional strengthening component, you are actually contributing to their attrition rates. That must be said. But having said that, I also want to tell you that there's a way to design activities. If, for example, you have 6, 7 activities to be done, and you have only 2 staff that have to do it or 3 staff that have to do it, use it as a medium to train volunteers. Get some volunteer people that, there are some graduates that may be within your environment who may not need transport because they are within your environment. I want to be able to learn 1 or 2 things. Deliberately get them involved and see how you can utilize them for the low-hanging fruits of some of the implementation. And when you do that, you will not have to rely on 3 staff for that purpose. But having said that, I want to encourage donors to reduce that stress, particularly burnout syndrome that is now very much associated with donor grants. Then Saifulai, they have talked about conflict of interest. I agree with Timothy very well, completely. Trainings, workshop. I have seen that in my practice over the last 3 years or 4 years, where I have to do in-person training. Anywhere I see ED come 1, 2, 3, and he's coming the 4th time, I will call him. I say, "You don't have staff? Are you the MIE person? You don't have staff? Please encourage your staff to come, not you." And sometimes I will stipulate it clearly. I want the program person or the finance person in charge of managing the QuickBook to be here for this training. But what is important in all of this discussion is the manager that are here should prioritize training plans that enable staff to be happy to stay within organization. I know I spoke about opportunity for growth. When that training plan is encouraged, issues around training and workshop always bring disaffections between the manager and the ED and then the staff. Once you calibrate it such a way that they are also able to attend and bring down a step down, like Timothy said, that will be something that can reduce that attrition. Then, Rachel, I think somebody spoke to that, pay in lieu. Yeah, it's accepted. If you know you cannot stay for 3 months, or 1 month as the policy says, or 3 weeks as the policy says, and there is always a room to say pay in lieu of that. It's either you forfeit that salary for that month, or you pay if you have already received that. And then you are allowed to go, particularly if it's a job that requires immediate employee. And even the organization that you are going to will be very happy that you dissociate yourself very clearly in relation to that organizational policy. Ayedu, thank you so much for what you said. And I think I don't need to comment more on what Ayedu said. Over to Abigail.
All right, thank you, Dr. Carson. Going over to the chat box, I'll be reading out some of the comments and questions that we have on there, especially the ones that have not been responded to. Timothy said, I'm alone on this webinar. Is there a way you can effectively individualize the assignments and reverts? From Faith Wadi, she says, thank you, Dr. Kosen, for the lecture. Please help in addressing these questions. How can we improve our exit interview process to gain more actionable insights into why employees leave? And what methods can you share to ensure exit interview data is used effectively to address attrition issues? The next one says, this is from Cecilia Paul. How do you manage attrition when people work as volunteers and the organization does not have funds to pay salaries or emoluments? And then there's also a comment from Yusufu. Says attrition is more with local NGOs than with the INGO. INGO should always get a recommendation report from the last employment. Mr. Frank Aremota says, thank you for this excellent presentation. We at WFI will do our assignments and look forward to your help on framing our staff retention policy. And then there's Oluto Infalide says some organizational policies and handling issues around them by management contribute to staff attrition. Aremota asked, does regular and intentional team building exercises help staff retention? Faladay again says, HR officer not skilled in their roles from my experience can aid staff attrition. There's again coming from Faladay, Luto in Faladay says, weekly staff meeting helps to bring all staff together. which allows opportunities for the CEO to encounter other staff members.
Yeah, correct.
And Grace Oshofodori says high attrition can be attributed to overload of work on staff. Low remuneration is a key factor of staff exiting local organizations and toxic working environments. Ibrahim Nuhu says, can you please tell me in brief the major functions and tasks for a HR officer in an organization? Norma Ibujono says, high attrition is also inevitable when the working environment is toxic, when the superior bullies, intimidates, harasses the junior staff. Timothy again comments, donors must also be intentional about discouraging conflicts of interest among their partners, recruiting family members and relations into organizations or projects. It leads to high attrition in some organizations as it encourages unhealthy workplace, such as gossips, forming of cliques, which are often inimical to project or organizational success. Then Tessa Anota says, kindly answer the question on managing sexual harassment within the organization and its influence on staff attrition. Mila Messi says, she's asking if the slides will be shared. It will be shared. And then we have Speaking Fingers. Speaking Fingers Treasure says, how do we handle volunteers who aren't motivated by money or payments? And the last one from Olutoyin Falade says, high attrition rate is dangerous for the existence of an organization. Staff welfare and development aids retention as well. Yes, there's a last one from Bolanle. Says it's an eye-opener for small organizations who always have staff problems due to lack of funds, and saying thank you for your presentation. Philomena is asking, what should the HR do to curb toxic environments? And that's what we have in the chat section. So coming back to the few persons that have questions, maybe we start with Atin. Okay, we just have 4 persons. Please go straight to your questions. We have less than 15 minutes to wrap up. Okay, Ambassador Green Eyes, can you unmute and ask your question?
All right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Tangod, thank you very much for that beautiful presentation. I always love to listen to you when you're talking. You're embodiment of
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, it's good to be worried about attrition. What about growing organizations that do not have funding to retain their staff, the staff strength of the organization? How do you keep such staffs even when you know the economy is biting hard, and you really want these staffs to be with you? How do you manage such situation? Like I said, we are all worried about attrition, but how do you maintain staffs that you need to work with in an organization when you know you do not have the necessary the funds to keep them going?
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate all of us, and I think the number of contribution on this, it looks to me has been the highest level of contribution in terms of interaction. And it's telling me that there are more people getting involved and trusting our platform for learning. And I don't take it for granted. I want to thank you, all of you, honestly. As we wind down on this, let me tell you that it is not in doing this that matters to us much, but hearing the success story of who you are, as how you move from story to glory, how you move from story to impact. You know, when we get those stories and those information, it makes us know that what we are doing is creating a change. Yes, I want to agree with the statement about the exit interview process, you know, that was spoken to. For volunteers, when you have volunteers coming and going, that is not a sign of attrition. Attrition is not defined as number of volunteers that come in and go, or they are learning. They are not staff. Volunteers come to test ground for whatever reasons, or maybe truly earnestly for it. So if they are moving and leaving, we don't count volunteers when we are calculating attrition rates. because they are not part of the recruitment process. But when they leave volunteer level and are now becoming staff, though that is people on probation are not counted, because at that point you may not truly know what kind of intention they have. So they will spoil your rate. But from when that person is engaged as a staff and has gone through orientation, we'll begin to calculate issues around attrition. Dr. Remota Francis, again, thank you, sir, for all that you have done and all you continue to do for the CSO community. And yes, very glad that you said you were going to work on this assignment. I'm looking forward to it because I'm sure that once we do this, it will help to strengthen the engagement process. And so your comment on regular and intentional meetings, skill building process, either through meetings or through staff meeting, is a big one because it helps to dissociate those egoistic tendency or thinking that, when you see the CEOs taking you out or buy or sharing idea with you or how they began and all that, they are all part of team building. And I think, yes, you are right. That's correct. Then the HRO. Somebody said that the HRO aid staff attrition, poor HRO, and I keep talking about it. Recruitment is the entrance of staff, and once you don't have HRO staff that are trained on how to recruit, on how to interact, on how to keep files, on how to ensure promotion, performance appraisal are distributed and accumulated, analyzed, you will continue to have problem as if it's the management. So we need to invest in the HRO. And that's why I'm happy, like by tomorrow, next tomorrow, I'm likely to be working with another organization who is prioritizing human resource. And they are telling me, come and zoom on the human resource. Come and help us address policy issues around human resource and what they should be doing. You know, once you can train your human resource person and make that person very vibrant, you are likely to reduce issues around litigation and toxic environments, which somebody spoke to. Abraham shared experience, HRO function. What are the functions of HRO in reducing are very good. They are supposed to anchor recruitment, promotion, leave matters, issue about performance appraisal. They are supposed to also be involved in advising management on how leave should be done, what role, keeping the file safe, making sure documentation is complete, reference check, involving themselves in the management, or those teams that will be doing recruitment. And then, of course, when you talk HR, it means human affairs. They manage human capacity, whether at the point of entrance or at the point of exit. That is what they function. The rest, it will be a facilitation that is not within this process. Inoma, thank you about toxic environment. That is correct. It's something, of course, Timothy, I'll talk about conflict of interest, which I agree with. Then, Tessa, you mentioned managing sexual harassment environment. Evelyn, are you there? Can you say a word or two on that?
So quick tips on doing that. First, you must have a standard safeguarding policy that prescribe what constitutes harassment and how to prevent, report and respond. Then you must have a focal person that it could be anybody for the purpose of resources. Maybe the HR within local organization could also double as safeguarding of the gender focal point. Then you must have a direct number or link or email where cases can be easily reported. Then, most importantly, an organizational culture that supports reporting, supports safeguarding is very important, and where there's zero tolerance for sexual harassment. Very important. Could have maybe another session to discuss this
Okay, thank you so much. So at this point, I want to say every other question I have not responded to is time constraints. Please shoot me a private letter, I will answer. But be sure that all the assignment, when they are done, I will use your context to share with you a functional exit plan or retention policy. At this point, thank you again for everything, and I'm take it over to John, who will ask the DCOP to do the needful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Dr. TG. I will ask the Deputy Chief of Party to come in again to moderate the session on success stories on the past webinars. how this contributes to the knowledge and capacity building outcomes within their organization.
Okay, thank you so much, John. We have talked about the importance to how we should reward our staff and motivate our staff. If we want our staff to stay, we have to reward them for job well done and also learn how to motivate them. Also, let's try to build capacity of our staff, both internally and externally. Let's be transparent with the ways we go about picking people to attend trainings. And I also want to encourage staff that you also have the opportunity to look for some of these trainings that are relevant to what you do and apply for them. Your organization will be happy to know that you are attending this training at no cost for them, but you are searching out for them. I also want to, I know we've been talking about, when a project goes, what happens? How do I keep the staff? What you do is that if it's a project-based staff, then you base the staff time based on the project, the life of the project. And if you get another one, it's fine. But a model that is coming that we should think about is how do we share staff time with, say, other organizations so that a staff is not solely dependent on an organization. We can share, a staff can be a part-time staff, particularly if we think that staff is very, very good. And then we can also have a consultancy outfit by the side of our organization so that if that one is bringing up money, we can use to retain the staff, and we can think about some kind of employee-owned model for such a consultancy arrangements that we are doing. We look forward to having you joining us in our next webinar in March. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much, DCOP. I think DCOP has concluded the webinar. I think we can as well say au revoir to everyone. Thank you.